Okay, so this is the spoiler discussion for Lights Out. If you do not want to get any spoilers, I will put a link in the description to my spoiler-free review. But what I really want to start off with is my least favorite part of the entire movie, which was the big prep for the final act of the film. That was the one thing that really upset me. Like, despite them having like the couple of moments where they had the generic tropes where it's like, oh, I heard something, let me go towards it even though I know what I'm dealing with, which they only, they did very rarely, even though it shouldn't have been at all, because I felt like, I think those moments happened later in the movie, which I thought made it worse a little bit, because it's like, you already did the smart stuff early and now you're doing the dumb stuff, so it made it a little bit worse. But I think it was kind of minor stuff, so I was fine with it. But the montage thing where it's like, all right, we're gonna save mom. I don't remember any of the characters' names. So we have the sister, the younger brother, and the boyfriend. So it's like, we're gonna help mom. We're gonna stay in the house. We're gonna defeat Diana, because that's the name we hear the most. So we're gonna defeat her, and we're gonna save mom. And they go through the montage thing. It's like, all right, we do this. We get a bunch of light bulbs. We turn these on. We do this. Got a bunch of candles and this and that. Power goes out, and I'm like, okay, power's destroyed. Everything's messed up. And then we get to see what they do afterwards, and it's like, this is what they prepped with. The boyfriend had the tiny effing flashlight, and then boyfriend, probably best character ever too, because just him surviving was hilarious. I think everyone had the same reaction. Him actually making it, especially when he left the house, because when he first made it out, I was like, okay, I was like, all right, but he's freaking out because it's a freaking supernatural ghost that disappears in the light, or not ghost, which I'll definitely get to that. But he's freaking out and he's running. I'm like, oh, he's gonna run into the dark, and he's actually not gonna make it. And it picks him up, and when she had like super strength, when they showed that scene when he first got picked up like inside the house, I was like, holy crap, I didn't know it was like that. I thought she only did like the scratching thing, but she was like picking them up, especially at the end when she threw the sister like over the banister. I was like, holy crap, she's like launching people. But he's running. I'm like, oh, he's not gonna make it because he's about to run into the dark. And then she picked him up and was about to slam him down again, and he turned the car on. I was like, holy crap, this dude effing made it. And then of course he takes off and is like, oh, he bolted and he left them. But of course he was awesome and he came back, and unfortunately the cops got killed after. But that was great. Like, those realistic moments were good, but it was like, that's what they prepped with. And she had, like, I understand having the winding thing. I forgot what they actually call them, but basically like sort of the crank flashlights. That I understand, but in all honesty, does it not make more sense to have both those things? Like, crank, oh, it's on, click, boom, you have it on, at least in the room, and just maybe point it straight up. I don't know how that would have worked. I would assume if there was any light, it would have dispersed, because you aim it up and you just have more light over the whole room. But anyway, you just have it, the regular one right there, boom, click, it's on, no problem whatsoever, done. And then you have the crank one as well. That way you have two of them. If something crazy happens, if she, how the whole movie basically, she's kind of going through and disrupting all the lights and stuff, which basically I think was her actually physically going to places where they're in the light and like destroying power boxes and stuff. But you have those moments and stuff, and it's like, okay, she's smart enough to do that, and they're smart enough to prepare, and then the power goes out, and it's like, there's a candle in the kid's room. There were like two candles because he picked one up, and then during the scene when he was walking out, there's another in the background. So there's like two candles in the room and a little crank light, and the boyfriend had like had just like a normal flashlight. And I'm like, that's what they had. I would like, when I was watching that scene, I was like, they make light lanterns that you click a button and it's a lantern. Like how they used to use oil and fire. We have light versions, electricity of that. That's all they needed. Like, if they just had lanterns walking around their house, just put one in every room, and that would have been it. That would have been way better even than the flashlight, because it's literally 360 degrees of light, and it wouldn't technically cover their back unless they held it like over their heads, and then it would actually go all the way around. But it would have been better than, let me have this stupid little crank light and not even a button. And that's like my biggest issue with the whole movie. I was like, they went through the whole montage thing, like, let's get all these light bulbs and do all of this, which makes a lot of sense, perfect, light bulbs, leave all the lights on, stuff like that. And they could have spent like $100 extra. Like, this is literally life and death. They know that they're dealing with some supernatural thing. The boyfriend didn't, And of course, that was kind of why it seemed like he was gonna die, because he's like, you know, he's in love with this girl, and it's like, don't worry, I'm here for you. It's like, oh, he's saying all the dead people dialogue I've ever heard, but he eventually ends up making it. But they went through all that and do the prep and the candles and the light bulbs, and they didn't think we should probably get more than one flashlight, because he had, like, you know, the little flashlight, which in itself, it's a flashlight, but even that wasn't like a mega flashlight. He may have had a normal one, but it wasn't like he had like one of the big powerful ones. Like she had the, you know, the crank one with like 3 lights in it. He should have had one of those too, but they bought one. Like they were, I don't know if they just didn't have enough money or what the deal was. Who knows? We don't know where she worked or anything like that, but whatever, I don't know. I assumed, honestly, they never mentioned this at all, but because she was sleeping over the tattoo place, I just assumed that that's where she worked. Like, because it was an apartment over the building, I was like, I feel like that's where she works. And it kind of made sense a little with like the posters and there's like a bunch of art stuff. Also, I forgot to mention this in my spoiler-free review, but I love the fact that whoever's house they were in, that kid's room is awesome, because they had a bunch of like Justice League posters, and when they were panning over the pictures and stuff like that, that had to be somebody on the crew, because that was not the kid's toy. But they had like old school Batman the Animated Series Robin toy. I was like, holy crap, that is awesome. And I forgot to mention that in my spoiler-free review, but it's impossible to miss anyway. But I wanted to talk about that because I love that moment. I was like, holy crap, that's not like, oh, it's a Batman, you know, it's a Batman toy or anything. That's like animated series from the 90s Robin, and it looked good too. It was in good condition. So I was surprised by that. I was like, holy crap, that had to be somebody from the crew, or like whoever's house they were in, like the parent had that toy forever and they kept it or something like that. Because I'm like, that's insane, like that toy from, you know, the animated series. So I thought that was awesome. And then the kids room, I'm like, there's just Justice League posters all over the place in here, and they had some they had a lot of like music posters. They had a couple of music posters in the sister's room. I feel like she had like Slayer or something like that, and then like another poster. I can't remember. For some reason, I always pick up on that. Like it'll be like a split second, even though the Batman thing and the posters are really obvious to see. But once I saw the Robin toy, I was like, I'm looking around this room to see what's in here. So after that happened, that's all I was looking for. But I thought that was cool. I really enjoyed that, just as a nerd thing for me. I was like, that's super sweet to see. And, the Justice League, all the posters and stuff that were in there. A lot of DC stuff, no Marvel. But I thought that was really cool. I thought that was interesting that that they just had that in the background. But, the prep, that's like my one issue. Whole movie, well, biggest issue, I'll say. Biggest issue is the prep. They could have spent some more money. Maybe they didn't have it. I mean, I guess she wasn't working. That's something my girlfriend mentioned. Like, they didn't do the scene where she, like, takes off work or anything like that. Which was like, yeah, they technically didn't. But, it didn't really bother me that much. And, like I said, I honestly assume they don't mention it as well. But I was like, because she lived over the tattoo place, I just really assumed that's where she worked. And maybe she even owned it. I highly doubt it, because I feel like if she owned the tattoo shop, I don't know. I don't know how much those people make, but if she owned it, it would kind of make sense. She could just stay above it, and then she'd own the shop as well, which in itself costs a bunch of money. So it makes sense that she'd only have an apartment and not like, I have a full house plus this place and all that. So it made sense to me. But just, that was like the one thing. I was like, the prep montage and all that, and they didn't get a couple of extra flashlights or some of the electric lanterns, even a real lantern, anything like that. It was like, let's only do lights and candles, which can blow out or anything like that. They weren't thinking, and that was like the one thing that bothered me, because they did all this smart stuff, and it's like candles and a crank. Like, just why not get 2 cranks and 2 batteries? You got 3 people, get one of each. Like, get big straps for the regular ones and just click them on, leave them hanging on your waist, and have the crank one in your hand or something. Do it that way. Just be super prepared. You're dealing with something in darkness. Be like ultra prepared, and they were amazingly underprepared for what they were going up against. And it would have been a totally different thing if they spent like an extra $100. I think that it would have been a totally different end to the movie. Maybe an extra 200. Because I have no idea how much those electric lanterns cost. They probably cost way more than I'm thinking. Because in my spoiler-free review, I was like, maybe an extra $80, but they probably cost like 50 a piece. But I don't know. Just, I felt like they just weren't prepared. I was kind of disappointed in that. That was like the one big thing. And then the other issue I had, of course, was the fact that they talk about how Diana isn't a ghost. And they don't really go into that, which is really unfortunate. And when it got to, because they go through the whole thing and it's like, oh, well, of course it seems like it's a ghost or something, and you really think that, of course, because of the fact that, like, she's something. Even, like, I didn't really think of her as a ghost anyway. That's not even what I was thinking. I just thought she's like this crazy supernatural creature that can't be in light, but she's attached mentally to the mother. I didn't think she was a ghost, and it's like, okay, well, she's something, because obviously, like, especially like with the boyfriend thing, I think is the greatest example, even though they had a great moment with the father early on. He left from within the house and he runs through the little archway, which clearly doesn't have doors in it, and she was already there. So obviously she teleports through the darkness, and that was automatically, and they show that early on in the movie when the father sees her, and he's like, okay, and he realizes she can't move because of the light. And he takes off and he runs like around the corner and everything, but she cuts him like at random, as he's running, and that's how he gets caught. Which really sucked. I was like, man, because when that first happened, because they started off with the simple thing where the woman was like flicking the light on and off, but so eventually she stopped and she was like, okay, well, I'm be careful, I'm leaving, be careful. So that was a little generic, but she did eventually stop before she got killed, because I thought for sure she's gonna die before, she keeps flipping it and she's just gonna die. But I think it was once it moved a little bit closer and she flicked it back on, I think that was the last thing. It was like, oh, it actually moved. I'm out of here. And, the father did the same smart thing where he runs out, or he sees it and is like, all right, that's off. And he takes off. I was like, this is real life. Like, people are going to leave. And he was going to get out, but of course then he got, got caught, in the leg and stuff, so he got messed up. I was like, oh, I thought he'd actually make it. Because he didn't do the stupid movie thing. Because I thought he was going to freeze in place and try to stay there. Because, they had the moment when he realized she couldn't pass the light. I thought they were going to kind of do it where he'd, like, freeze in place for a little too long because he'd be in shock or something. And then the light would shut off before he'd be able to turn it back on. I thought that's what would happen. But he took off and, the sensors were catching him and everything. And she just... the teleportation thing, and I was like, okay, because, as soon as that happened, I was like, all right, she can move through the darkness, like, instantaneously, almost instantaneously, because he went through a couple of lights before he got hit, so it's one of those weird things where it's like she's faster, it's like, not like teleportation, but it's clearly faster, so it's one of those weird things where it's like, it's not a ghost, but it kind of is, and then they have like, oh, ghosts aren't real, and then they do the portion in the basement. And when they did the portion in the basement and the girl is going through and she has the black light, and it was before they showed it, which I thought was pretty cool, because she's going through and she's freaking out, which I also thought was funny and realistic, because, she, like, every time she touched on it, she'd be like, oh, crap, and she'd scream and freak out and turn around. But they did, like, I think it was, like, sort of a long shot of the hallway as she's going through, and I was like, there's words on the walls, like, they're going to show something. And they had the part where she freaked out when she first saw the handprint, and I'm like, okay, this is an actual handprint, like there are fingerprints here, and that means something, which means it has to be human. In some element, it has to be human. And then they have like all the writing on the wall, and it's like trapped down here, just like before, and stuff like that, and I'm like, okay, so is this an actual... at that point, I thought it was almost like a superhuman person. To be totally honest, I thought, like, once it went from... it's not a ghost or anything like that, especially, to the basement scene, it was almost like a blend. Like, I feel like this is some sort of superhuman that is clearly disturbed or something like that, because with all the writing, it was like, oh, trapped down here, I was like, this is an actual person that's been in their house for a long time, and the mother kind of kept her around, and maybe because of her illness, I don't know, it was, I was just trying to put it all together, and then they don't explain it to us. It was just like, ghosts aren't real, and then they made it seem like the woman is real, but I don't know, like, it was weird, and I think that's kind of how it is, almost, but, and that's the thing, like, that's why it's hard to explain, because she does technically disappear in the light, like, when she had the notebook and everything, like, when they did the flashback of the girl, and she's drawing on the notebook, and as soon as she turned the light on, the notebook's just floating and it drops. So she automatically vanishes. So it's like, it's not a ghost, but it kind of is a ghost. But she has like handprints and like actual fingerprints. You can see the indentations. Unless that was supposed to be like her father. Because Diana does mention to the main character, she's like, like that ending scene, she's like, I'll show you where I buried your father. So like she killed her father and she killed the little boy's father because she wanted to be with their mother, and that's why the girl's father disappeared, because he died, but they didn't realize that he got attacked. So it was just crazy. I was like, I'm trying to put it together, and then it kind of just ends. And I was like, I thought they were giving us some clues, especially with the blacklight thing, when she was there, which was, I thought a good portion. Like, my favorite portion that's really scared me was when Diana was at the apartment in the closet, and they were both, the girl and her brother, they were there, and she opens the door. And I thought it was going to be like the flashback. That's what I was expecting. I thought it would be like another thing where she was writing, telling them like, you're going to die or something like that. And I thought that's what we were going to see. Like her writing some words in a notebook or scratching them into the ground. And then when the boy got grabbed under the bed, that really surprised me, because I was so sure it was going to be like another note or something. Because it looked like she was looking down about to read something and they'd show it. And that's what I was waiting for. I was like, okay, she did something and it's going to freak them out when we get to see what she wrote. And then when he got grabbed, that freaked me out. I was like, holy crap, that was a good scene, because I was so expecting them to see something in the closet based on how they held it, and then she grabbed him. I love that scene. And then the blacklight scene, that really surprised me, because I thought for sure, oh, it's going to be another mannequin, and they're going to make it super creepy and stuff. And then she actually turned around, and it was really her. And that's when it went to, this is an actual person with some supernatural elements. And then it's like, oh no, she actually does disappear in the light, but black lights are different. And I thought they were doing something else, because when she had the black light on her, what I noticed is that, and I guess that was the point of the black light, is that she couldn't disappear completely in the black light, but she got burned when the brother came back with the normal flashlight, and it burned her, and so she let go of the sister. So when they did that, I was like, okay, so it's kind of a real person. And then it went right back to the normal thing where she just vanishes in the light. And it was like, no explanation. It was just a moment where it was kind of weird, and it seemed like she was literally in the basement, and it made no sense, because it's like, how is she trapped in the basement? Like, that was my thing. I was trying to figure out, like, this has to be a real person now, at least in some regard, because it's like trapped in the basement just like last time and all this other stuff. And I guess that was simply due to the light factor, and that's why she was trapped in the basement. But it was just crazy. It was really weird. And, of course, that was like the big plot hole of the movie. It was not even a plot hole, technically. They just left it really super vague and open, and it just doesn't make sense. It's not really a plot hole. It's just a supernatural thing that has no explanation. But then they kind of give us a weird explanation, too, almost. Like, it's not a ghost, and it's kind of a person, because the handprints and the writing on the wall and scratching up the faces and stuff. And then it's like, no, supernatural, and then she's just gone when the mother kills herself. And that was it. No explanation. So that kind of sucked. But I still enjoyed it. I thought that was, the way they used it was awesome. And I love, my favorite thing, honestly, of all this stuff they did, I love the gun thing at the end with the cops. Because I didn't even think of that. Because no one was using guns, I didn't even consider that at all. And, the cop shoots her, and of course the flash makes her vanish, so, the flash is instantaneous, as basically just like the bullet is. So by the time the bullet is gone, the flash is gone, and so she's back. And I was like, that's actually a really awesome scene, and she just keeps disappearing, and she gets closer and closer, and she ends up killing the cops. So I was like, that's actually kind of awesome. And then, them going through, and I was very curious. I thought they'd actually kill her at the end. I thought that everything would work out, and they would defeat Diana, and everything would be fine. Because they introduced, it was like, it started off, and it's like, okay, the mother clearly realizes that she needs help. She knows Diana is going to try to kill her kids, even though they had an agreement, for a time at least. And she realizes, I have to kill myself to get rid of Diana. And when they introduced that, it's like, alright, that makes the most sense. That's probably what's going to happen. And then they introduced the blacklight thing, and it's like, okay, they're going to use the blacklight to kill Diana. Like, I figured that's what would happen. They'd somehow use the blacklight, and it made perfect sense, like, especially with the gun thing. If they did it with the cops, if they got to one of the, maybe the other cop that wasn't, the other cop didn't shoot, the other cop just, like, disappeared and died. And then we just saw them, dead. But the cop that wasn't shooting, maybe we could have seen the characters get to their gun, and I kind of thought that's where it would go. Like, they do something, and it's like, boom, she can't disappear, and maybe there's multiple people there, so she's not just attacking, one of the characters. It's like one character holds her down while they leave the light on her, and then they're able to get something to kill her. And I thought, it's one of those two ways. I knew it had to be one of those two, but I thought they kind of introduced the blacklight kind of to do it that way. And I kind of wish they did, because just in general, you always want all the characters to live. But it was a surprise twist when the mother was like, all right, I gotta kill myself, because the boyfriend takes the brother out, and it's like, I gotta go get mom. And then she gets jumped, and once again, Diana picks her up, and when she threw her over the balcony, that was really crazy. I thought it was nuts when she picked the boyfriend up and was like slamming him on the ground. When she picked her up and just threw her off the balcony, I was like, holy crap! She basically was dead, because she was like, you get tossed off a balcony, you're not just getting right up. It's not easy. So she was down, and it was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And then the mother came around, and it was like, man, I wish, of course, they were able to defeat her, because that just would have been more satisfying, because they defeated the enemy. But I liked the way they did it, because it was a shock. It was a nice shock ending, and I thought that was pretty cool. And I'm sure they did an alternate ending. I can almost guarantee it, because it's like basically one scene. Just do it where the daughter got up instead, and maybe do it where Diana tried to get her, and the mom just kept shooting until she had like one bullet left or something, because it was a cop gun. I would assume it would have at least 10, 15 bullets in it in the clip. So, just do it that way, and she keeps shooting, obviously, like, just shoot in the air or something, and Diana keeps vanishing, and then she flashes the blacklight on her, and then she's stuck there, and the mom just, like, unloads and, like, shoots her in the head and stuff, and then she's, like, officially dead, and maybe the body doesn't disappear, maybe it just flat out actually burns away, because they did the other thing, too, where the girl is, like, supernatural in general, because that was why her dad killed herself in the past, and when they did the light therapy thing, they made it seem like she spontaneously combusted. So I'm almost on the spectrum of maybe she was in a different light spectrum. I didn't mean to say spectrum twice, but maybe that's what it was. I don't know if they'll say that after, if that's what was meant to be the case, and it was like, oh, that's what you were supposed to figure out. But when they killed her, it did seem like she literally spontaneously combusted, but maybe that's what happened. She didn't actually die. She went into like another spectrum of light, and so you can't see her, because she was never, she always had an issue with light. I don't know. That's like my last little bit of speculation, but enjoyed the movie. I really did. I really think it's a good movie. I love the actual realness of the characters, for the most part at least. And the survival of the boyfriend, probably the funniest thing in that whole movie. Him making it with those car keys. I was like, you freaking did it. You actually survived the trope, and he said every bit of dead person dialogue ever, but he made it, and that was just hilarious and really good. They ended up killing the mother, which was surprising, but that was kind of a little twist. He made it, and then she had to kill herself. But I enjoyed the movie. Of course, would love to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. I would love to know your theories. I would love to know your theories on what you think exactly was going on with Diana, the spectrum thing, which I literally just thought about as I was speaking. But we'd love to know your theories on that, and just what you guys thought about the movie. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.